Yeah, hello, dear friends. This is Bob Hatton. This is the Encourager, and we are continuing with our story. We're coming to the end of the Old Testament today, and we've seen that there have been a lot of disappointments, and we're going to face some disappointments again today. People were disappointed with the leader Zerubbabel. They were disappointed with the high priest Joshua. They were disappointed in the temple, and the people were taken away in exile in the year 586 BC. The city was destroyed, the temple was destroyed, and the people were taken away into exile. 70 years later, the people had come back again, and they'd rebuilt the temple. The temple was dedicated. And of course, it was a disappointment. It was smaller, it wasn't as grand, and the presence of God was missing. But they could use it, and they could sacrifice, and so on and so forth. But then we go on another 70 years, and we come to the last book of the Bible. I'm talking now chronologically, and that's the book of Nehemiah. And Nehemiah belonged to a family who had decided they were going to stay in Persia. They didn't leave with the 40,000 who went with Zerubbabel and Joshua. They stayed in Persia, but they were still very interested in things that were happening in Jerusalem. And Nehemiah, he was of the opinion that because 40,000 have moved down there, they've been there now for 70 years, the population is probably grown a little bit anyway. There were princes amongst the Jewish people, and surely they would take responsibility, and they would see that Jerusalem was doing okay. They would see that there was a certain amount of prosperity coming to Jerusalem. And then one day, when the book of Nehemiah starts, he meets one of his relatives, his cousin, a man called Hananiah, and he's just been on holiday in Jerusalem. And he asks, what's happening? How is everything in Jerusalem? And I'd like to read to you from the beginning of the book of Nehemiah, in chapter 1 and verse 1, and just tell you, just read that to you. And it says now it happened in the month of Chislev, in the 20th year, as I was in the city of Susa, the citadel. And it happened that Hananiah, one of my brothers, he means his cousin, came with certain men from Judah. And I asked them concerning the Jews who escaped and who survived the exile, and concerning Jerusalem. And they said to me, the remnant there in the province who have survived the exile is in great trouble and shame. The wall of Jerusalem is broken down, and the gates are destroyed by fire. And as soon as I heard these words, I sat down and wept and mourned for days, and I continued fasting and praying before the God of heaven. Nehemiah is very disappointed. He assumed that the princes of Judah would look after the city, but they hadn't done that. And in fact, he found out later that they were just frightened of getting their hands dirty. They didn't want to get involved with any of that stuff. And besides that, they were quite wealthy, and they were lending money to the poor people, and the poor people couldn't pay the money back because they were asking very, very high interest rates, and the people were selling themselves into slavery to pay back the debt, and they were now enslaved to these princes of Israel, and many other things were were happening. And Nehemiah, he went back. That we could talk in great detail about this, but he went back to Jerusalem, and he was determined. He was going to rebuild the walls of the city and install the gates again. And I guess if we are in a situation where nothing has changed for many years, we have all kinds of excuses, and the situation here is difficult, and we've got very difficult soil to work in, and we've got all these problems. And even Nehemiah, he had a lot of enemies who were against him, and what they were saying to him. And there's one place in the book of Nehemiah, so he said, so we finished building the walls. It only took him 52 days. It just a little bit more than 7 weeks, just a little bit more than our school summer holidays that we have. He did it exceedingly quickly, and he took a promise from the Jewish people that they were going to serve the Lord. That would have been a good place to finish the Old Testament. Nehemiah goes back to Persia to continue his job as working for the king of Persia. He had a very important job there. He was working in the king's court, and he had the respect of everybody. Now, after about 2 years, he decided to go back to Jerusalem to see how things were going. He'd had a very good time there. They had a great praise and worship time with people standing on the walls, two choirs singing to one another. It must have been fantastic. So I suppose he's looking forward to going to see how things have developed. And when he gets back, he is totally devastated. It's a disappointment once more. A disappointment once more. He finds out that the high priest has started to rent the temple for various other things to make money. The people are working on the Sabbath. The gates are being left open, and they're doing lots of other things that they're not supposed to do. He is very upset about this, and time is running out because the Old Testament is coming to a close. And Nehemiah, the book of Nehemiah, chapter 31 is more or less chronologically the end of the Old Testament. And when Nehemiah sees all these things happening and everything that the people are doing, he is so upset. And in verse 25, almost the end of the chapter, in verse 25, he said, I confronted them, so the men of Judah, with all the things that's been going on. I confronted them, and I cursed them, and I beat some of them, and I pulled out their hair. Wow, this is how the Old Testament is finishing. This is how the Old Testament is finishing. They'd stop bringing offering. We have a prophet, the last prophet in the Bible, Malachi, and he prophesies in this time. You see, the people are not bringing offering, but Malachi says, yes, you are bringing offering, but you're bringing the offering that you don't need. You're bringing your animals to be sacrificed, but really they're just animals you can't use. You're bringing animals that are blind or lame, animals that are no use. They're just good enough for the Lord. And he the prophet Malachi, he goes into he's very upset with them too, and he tells them that they are to bring the tithe into the storehouse and expect that God will open the heavens of promises there, and so on and so forth. It is just so devastating, as it has been in the past. So it's now continuing, and this Old Testament, the time, the plan, and the working that God had with people in the Old Testament, it's coming to a close, and it's going to be a disappointment. And how disappointed are we in all this? Maybe something could have happened at the end of the Old Testament. Well, it doesn't. The prophet Malachi, he gives us a promise, and he says, the Lord that you are seeking, he will come suddenly to his house. Something is going to happen. Something is going to happen. And he also, the last promise is that he's going to send the prophet Elijah, or he's going to send at least someone in the spirit of Elijah. And then it stops. Nehemiah stops, and God has he said everything there is to be said, and he doesn't say anything more to mankind for 400 years. He doesn't have anything to say, but then he will break his silence in a mighty way. But I'm going to getting in front of myself. We're going to see that next week. So I hope that if you're going through disappointments at the moment, that you realize God does have promises, but we got to get a hold of these promises. I wish that you are blessed today. Have a good day, and I'll see you on Monday when this mighty story will take a great turn for the better. God bless you. You're Bob Hatton, your encourager.